engaging in all kinds of bilateral migration agreements
with so many countries.
More than 20 countries, right?
Yeah, true.
So this is, there's a complex kind of migration diplomacy.
250,000 Kenyans from Kenya and bring them to Germany. We'll be taking the best nurses and the best doctors, etc.
Right? Yeah. Starts with the language. I mean,
with the language.
Most of the countries where probably traditionally Kenyans would go to and are still going to. I mean, you speak English. No, you don't need to make an investment into language skills. And
on the flip side, I'm thinking of a place like Germany, and you have, let's say, members of the AfD, the Alternative for Germany, the far-right party, and some of them, I think, the let's say kids coming from wealthy backgrounds, the small elite, and their parents are able to pay for them school fees to go to the UK, to Germany, to Switzerland, North America, Australia, New Zealand. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to a new episode on the Nubianometry Podcast. This is episode number 11, in a podcast where we talk about issues on the African continent, but also beyond the African continent, covering topics like development, geopolitics, entrepreneurship, labor migration, and many other topics. And in fact, today's episode is going to be about the latter, labor migration, but also labor mobility and migration in general. And our guest today is actually coming all the way from Berlin, Germany, about 8,000 kilometers. And he has been in Nairobi for, I think, about 2 weeks, talking to various people, various issues covering the general topic of migration. He is actually a migration researcher from Berlin. He's called Dr. Markus Engler, and he works for an institution called DeZIM, which is the German Center for Integration and Migration Research. And so without further ado, I think we'll just dive into the conversation with our guest today, Dr. Markus Engler. Good evening, Dr. Markus.
Good evening. Hello. I'm so happy to be on your podcast. Thanks a lot for the invitation.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this because I think we've already met a couple of times in the course of the last 2 weeks. And I was like, let me make an offer for the podcast, because I think having different guests with different views from various parts of the world actually makes this podcast to stand out a little bit. It's still a small channel, but I think it will grow over time.
I'm sure it will. I had a look at some of the episodes and found it very interesting. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah. Maybe to kick off the conversation, Dr. Markus, first of all, maybe did I do justice with the introduction, or is there something I left out that maybe you might want to add?
I mean, as you said, I'm a researcher working on migration policies, migration flows at the German Center for Integration and Migration Research, DeZIM, in Berlin. For many years, I'm really interested in, on the one hand, obviously what shapes migration flows, different types of migratory movements, forced migration, labor migration, all kinds of movements. And obviously, it's not always so clear cut, the differences. We can talk about it. And obviously, I'm also very much interested in the political debates and also policies. Policymakers obviously trying to control, govern migratory flows, which is a very difficult thing to do. It's a fascinating topic, but also a difficult topic, as everybody knows. It's a very toxic policy field. And for me and my colleagues, it's always important that the debate is based on evidence. I mean, it's a challenging field also for researchers, but I think evidence should be part of the conversation.
And so maybe zooming in a little bit into the work that DeZIM does. So what exactly is, let's say, the history of DeZIM, and what do you guys focus on so much?
I mean, our institute is a relatively new institution, like 5, 6, maybe 7 years old, and has been created because there was the feeling there are lots of institutions in Germany at the universities, but also, research institutes outside of universities where migration, it's such an important topic, so that there's also a vibrant research community. but it was a bit, all over the place,
Yeah.
scattered a bit, and there was the idea to have a bigger structure in the center of Berlin, where also the political institutions are based.
Yeah.
That's why it was founded, and maybe it grew very very quickly. Now they are really I don't know the precise number at the moment, but it's a lot more than 100 people working there. It's quite a large.
That's huge.
That's huge. I mean, this includes like everybody, like students, assistant, administration, but also lots of researchers. And what we do is, on the one hand, really we try to do excellent academic research to publish in academic journals, for instance, books and so on. But also we have a strong component of what we call transfer work. Outreach to communities, which can obviously also part of the research. But also, to the public sector, policymakers, or the general public. So we talk a lot with journalists, but also politicians, and so try to be a little bit of both, right? Research, for the academic purpose, but also transfer. And that's in terms of the topics. I would say most of the research we are doing at my colleagues at the institute has a strong focus, obviously, on Germany, the German society, which is very deeply shaped by migration. For decades now, right?
Quite true.
A quarter of the population has kind of roots, in different countries
in other countries
of the world. And there is this part of the historical analysis, but also what happens, when the society gets more and more diverse, what are the challenges? Obviously, there's the issues of integration, of education, labor market, but also racism. We do lots of research on different types of racism, right?
Yeah.
This is, I'd say, most of the research that has been done at our institute. But then also, if you want to understand migration, governance, migration flows, you cannot only look at, the receiving country.
Yeah.
So you have to really look at countries of origin, of transit, of other possible destination countries, and that's where maybe my department, the migration department, where I'm based in, comes a bit more into the field. So we try to understand, why are people actually moving? What are the migration motives? But then also, what are policies? At the German level, at the European level, trying to stop some certain types of migration, but also to facilitate others. So we try to analyze those policies, debates, also with an international lens. So we are doing kind of field research in different parts of the world in the past, or just talking to people from different countries. Try to understand, because this national kind of bias, just looking at the topic from your particular country, you will lose a lot of the picture, right?
Yeah, quite true. And maybe just a little bit, to go back a little bit, what is your background actually, and how did you maybe land into DeZIM? And I also want to tie that a little bit to, I think, something I saw on your LinkedIn. You also did some migration stint at the University of Osnabrück, right?
Yes, for
because actually that was my alma mater.
That's true.
I did my master's at the University of Osnabrück, and when I was looking at your LinkedIn, I saw something, because I used to know there was something huge about migration. There was a migration center.
True.
Exactly, at the University of Osnabrück.
Yeah, I studied political science and sociology, a little bit of economics, then in Berlin and in Paris. Then also did a PhD in sociology. But when I first, my first contact with the topic of migration was when I did kind of a civil service. Back then, the military service was still mandatory. But you could do kind of a civil service. Actually, now we are having again debates about making it mandatory again.
I've seen a lot of them on the media.
But back then, when I was after school, I decided, okay, I have to do this, and I'm also happy to contribute something, but I want to do something interesting. So I had the opportunity to do this in France, in the southern city Marseille, which is shaped by migration. More than probably many other cities in Europe. So I was working with migrants and refugees, like on an everyday basis, in an NGO called La CIMAD. And I also understood. I was 20 years old, and I was a migrant myself for some
Yeah.
time, and all the experiences that you can make, the language you have really to learn it. You don't know too many people. You feel a bit lonely. Maybe you can also refer to this experience during your stay in Germany.
Though I'll make a very quick distinction that in many debates, especially on the African continent, people say there is also some kind of a racial substructure. And if it was you in France, then you're an expat. But if it's me in Germany, then I'm a migrant.
Absolutely, there are all kinds of. There obviously the legal situation in which you are in, the question of what the resources you have access to.
Yeah.
But then, there are all kinds of. That's part of our research. Also, which categories are there? There are legal categories, and there are obviously other categories. We always divide people into different kind of small boxes.
Yeah.
And it's true. I was in a way absolutely privileged person coming from Berlin, arriving in Marseille. And I was every day seeing people that did escape war, like, in Rwanda, in Iraq, Sierra Leone at this time, Algeria. And I saw all the kind of very deep suffering and desperation of those people, the reasons why they left, but also, the French system of asylum, of admission was super restrictive at this time, and I guess this shaped me a lot, right? I always thought myself, migration is an interesting topic, but I only don't want to focus only on this. The world is much bigger, but then somehow this topic always came, after me, and so I became a migration researcher a couple of years later.
Yeah. So tying the entire conversation together, especially coming from Germany, my first question will be, what is the current state of the migration debate in Germany? Because I was there last, I think, in August of 2020. And of course, I follow German media from time to time, the newspaper articles. And migration is something that, in my view, since 2015, it has continued to play a very major role in German day-to-day politics. True. And other sectors of life, let's say academia, etc. And even like the elections, every time there's a new election, migration is one of the hottest topics.
That's true.
So I don't know, currently in 2025, maybe what's the current state of art if you are talking about, let's say, writing a journal article?
Yeah, I could talk, about this for hours.
For days on end.
We only have a few minutes. It's true. That there are many things I can say about Germany are probably also true for other European countries, but there are also important differences. Germany has been shaped by migration for decades, right? I don't want to go too much into the history, but the German society was, and the political system have been in denial of that for decades. Despite the fact that there are kind of millions of migrants and refugees in the country, there was always the saying that we are not a country of immigration. Wir sind kein Einwanderungsland, which is, completely ridiculous. But and this changed, around the year 2000, maybe a bit earlier. On the one hand, just the acknowledgement of the reality. On the other hand, this was also very much shaped by understanding that Germany will need a lot of migration in the future due to the demographic aging, which was very clear. 25, 30 years ago already, and then there were different debates, kind of. Okay, what can we do to really, attract migrants from abroad? But also, how do we deal with people that are already there, which, German society treated, with very restrictive policies in the past. I would say it's still a restrictive system today, but in the 80s and 90s, it was on a different level. Something else. So in a way, there's a more positive approach, also a normalization of migration as a reality, and also policies becoming more proactive on the one hand. On the other hand, the debate became more and more toxic. Sometimes I wonder, if I compare today's debates with the 1980s, there may be a lot of similarities also. Even if you look at some policy ideas from certain politicians, they seem very similar. Didn't work in the 80s, will not work now. There's on the one hand, a normalization. I mean, Germany being shaped by migration, every year a bit more.
Yeah.
You can look, I said a quarter of the population has roots abroad, but then also if you look at the children, in the cities,
Yeah.
it's above 50%, sometimes up to 70-80% of the children in certain kind of schools having
so first and second generation.
and third and so on. I mean,
third,
very, very strongly shaped. And then also, I mean, the demographic clock, as I might call it, is ticking, faster and louder.
Yeah.
So everybody knows, in principle, we need more migration. We need to make it work. On the other hand, Germany was shaped very strongly by kind of the arrival of refugees, protection seekers in 2015 from Syria, Afghanistan, and so on, but also in 2022
Yeah.
by people from Ukraine, but again,
From
also
Ukraine.
from other countries. And this created a very strong, not created, contributed, I would say, to a very strong backlash. And we can talk about geopolitics and all the other factors, why German society and other societies are experiencing kind of multiple crises. And migration is kind of, has to be seen in connection with this. What I want to say is that, what the difference between now and maybe 10 years ago is that a very strong presence of a far-right party. But this is, something we have seen everywhere in Europe.
Yeah.
In some countries, they are part of the government. In Germany, so far, they are not a part of any government, the so-called Alternative for Germany, AfD. But they have a huge impact because they have, according to the latest polls, up to 25% of the people would vote for them.
Yeah.
Some regions, 30-40%. And this has a huge impact on how the debate on migration is changing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I must say, parties of the center, they are a little bit helpless, and they, what they're doing, they're
So the traditional Volkspartei,
like
the Christian Democrats, CDU, and Social Democrats, SPD.
They think, maybe we need to copy a little bit the far right to get, votes back.
Yeah.
This is not really happening. I guess as a political strategy, I can see it. I would say, not only me, also colleagues, it's completely failing. But those parties are still continuing this political strategy probably because they don't know what else to do. And this has created an atmosphere, a debate, which is difficult to navigate at the moment, I would say.
Okay. So coming back to Africa and Kenya, and you've already given maybe the current state of play about the migration debate in Germany and also the wider Europe, honestly. You've been in the country for the last 2 weeks. You've been doing background conversations, background talks with various stakeholders. What are your impressions so far? And maybe also in what context are you doing this kind of background talks?
Obviously, we can approach it also from the angle of migration diplomacy or migration agreements. That's also where I started to be interested in the Kenyan case. As many people might know, there's a bilateral migration agreement between the two countries.
True.
That was signed last year in September 2024. So now we are a bit more over a year of implementation.
Yes.
And it's one of several agreements being signed by Germany, and others are being negotiated. I was asking myself, what are those migration agreements actually doing? Why do we have them? Why do we have them in certain countries? And once they are, what's in those agreements, and once they are kind of implemented, do they actually have an impact? Which kind of impact, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, then you can also turn around the question because Kenya is also engaging in all kinds of bilateral migration agreements
with so many countries,
more than 20 countries, right?
Yeah, true.
So this is there's a complex kind of migration diplomacy going on, and obviously you can start. What's the purpose of those agreements? I was always say, as I said earlier, this migration policy debate being very toxic. One of the frequent patterns we are seeing is performative politics.
Yeah.
migration policymakers, I guess in countries of origin, but also destination, want to show to their constituencies that they are doing something, that they have everything under control and they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So having such an agreement obviously shows to your, your voters that you're doing something.
Yeah.
And I guess this is, at first, I thought this is maybe one of the most important things why we're having those agreements. And I think it's still true. Then obviously the debate, how is it portrayed? How is it framed? And when I look at the migration agreement with Kenya, and also, the demographic composition in Kenya and here, looking at the Kenyan diaspora in Germany, which is very small.
Yeah.
For me, it was very clear. It is about facilitating labor mobility and migration. But then in the debate in Germany also, you could hear a lot of people talking about returns, because more returns, deportation is one of the main topics. It doesn't make sense at all looking at the Kenyan case.
Yeah.
So
because you have a small diaspora in Germany, so
very few people would be
exactly
concerned.
So even like people to be returned will be a negligible percentage, 0.0 something.
Yeah, but there's also in the agreement, an article about the possible returns of third country nationals, right?
Yeah.
This is I'm not sure whether anything happened in this regard. But yeah, but talking about Kenyans, it's really not about returning Kenyans, this agreement, if you ask me. But it has been unfortunately framed like this by some policymakers in the public. They should have known better, but that's the public debate. But okay, let's forget this, for a moment. So I guess the main purpose is really facilitating labor migration and I would say mobility, giving the really big, the aging society and the need for labor in Germany, but then also, on the Kenyan side, right? And what I really found, what I didn't understand that much, before coming here, is how important this issue is also for the Kenyan side. That they really, I would say, need, labor migration to work.
Yeah.
Because there's so many young people, mostly young people probably. Obviously everybody is more or less young in Kenya, right?
Yeah, quite true.
Compared to Germany.
With an average age of about, I think, 19 to 20.
The medium age.
The medium age, and in Germany, I think it's 45 to 46.
And this is what you see, me coming from Germany, immediately, every day you can see it. In Nairobi, right? That is really a young population.
True.
I understood really how important it is also for, the Kenyan society and also obviously the policymakers to facilitate this also, from a Kenyan in the Kenyan kind of national interest, if you want to call it like this, for economic, for political reasons.
Yeah.
That they are and this is what you can see, here and everywhere in the conversations, that, it's needed and it needs to work. There's a strong interest in making it, work. Then, of course, the question is, what does it working means? And there are all those debates about abuses, right? Then, there have been lots of articles, and it's unfortunately well known.
Yeah.
Kenyan kind of, labor migrants have been exploited, very, very badly treated,
abused.
And what I'm really seeing, obviously, this is always the case. Coming from a different country, you don't know so much, and you followed it a little bit. But then, obviously, if you really go into the topic, you see that there are very intense debates. On the Kenyan side, there's really a very controversial debate on how it should be done, if there's enough protection, who benefits from it. This is, this is kind of normal probably in democracy, that there's a fight around, what's the right policies, and is it. But I still have, but there are lots of things that probably should be improved from all sides, German side, Kenyan side. I still have the feeling people are trying to make it work. There are lots of, maybe not everybody, but there are lots of people involved.
Yeah.
That because it needs to work, people are also working on policies, and this is a process. You can sign an agreement, good. It's the first step, but really to make, if you now want to focus on Germany and Kenya, if you want to make this a success story, for me, a successful story would mean numbers would go up, but also everybody is is happy. I mean, people that go benefit from it. That German companies are finding the people they need. And we are not there yet. We are in the beginning of a process.
Yeah.
And I'm also not sure how we will talk about this in 2 years or 5 years. Will we be in a situation where a lot more Kenyans are going to Germany and they're finding jobs and they become part of the public debate and of society, sending back remittances, maybe some returning, setting up businesses? That would be great, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But it's not certain that we will get there, because I'm seeing also a lot of obstacles, actually.
A lot of obstacles. Maybe a few just to mention.
I mean, obviously, migration to Germany from Kenya is a bit more, you need more preparation, right? It starts with the language. I mean,
with the language.
Most of the countries where probably traditionally Kenyans would go to and are still going to, I mean, you speak English. No, you don't need to make an investment into language skills, and that's probably one of the biggest obstacles. But here, some progress has been done, maybe even a lot, but more could be done.
More could be done
in terms of, then the question, it comes always down to the question, who pays for this migration?
Yeah.
Is it the individual migrant, him or herself? Is it the German state? Is it companies?
Yeah, German companies.
I think it should be, personally, I think the contributions by individual migrants should be really minor.
Yeah.
Going close to zero. And then there are all kinds of programs, pre-departure programs, language programs. Sometimes they are paid by employers, and there's some programs paid, by the German state, pre-departure trainings at Goethe Institute and others. And that's very good. But I think there should be more funding. It should be, it should be taken more seriously, and to make those structures stronger.
Okay.
The other thing, what I'm hearing and feeling is, Kenya. I mean, this migration agreement. It did two things. On the one hand, so far, or at least two things. It triggered a lot of interest on the Kenyan side. The debates. Germany was not so much in the landscape of Kenyan potential migrants.
Yeah.
And this changed. You can hear it everywhere. It also maybe did the same thing in Germany, but a little bit for employers. It gives potential employers kind of a bit more certainty, or kind of a framework, awareness. Okay, we have this agreement with Kenya. Maybe there are some good reasons. Maybe I can find somebody to support me, because Kenya was not on the landscape of German employers.
Of most German employers.
Because there's so few. We don't have a history of migration.
Yeah.
But what I'm feeling, what I'm hearing and seeing is that while we have some kind of companies doing it, some pilots here and there, it's not that we are seeing very big numbers. I'm hearing that kind of the visa numbers, are increasing, but it's a little bit lacking is really more German employers saying, now I'm really ready to employ, to give Kenyans a chance if you want. Some do, but not enough.
Not enough.
Okay, Germany's in an economic crisis and a recession, you have to say, but also maybe it's because they're not familiar, with employing Kenyans. They haven't heard about it, and honestly, also racism, if you ask me, plays an important role.
Plays a role.
People wouldn't maybe kind of talk about it. They would find other reasons. But you can hear here and there that, we're not sure whether our communities are ready, to integrate African communities in some parts of Germany, maybe not in the big cities and some regions. So those are some of the obstacles that I'm seeing. But the biggest one maybe being also the economic recession in Germany.
Yeah.
I guess once the economy will recover, the German companies would have such an appetite for new labor. I mean, structurally it's there, but I mean now they're kind of a bit more careful.
Yeah.
But this could speed up things, very quickly.
Very quickly.
Then the question is, will this happen? This turnaround, because it's not just another recession. I'm not an economist, but what I'm seeing is, there are huge geopolitical crises.
Yeah.
There's also, traditional German industries like the car industry, some others. It's structural transformations. There's the AI revolution. There's kind of electric mobility. There are a few other things where it's really maybe another almost industrial revolution.
Yeah.
And we don't know. In the past, Germany always did very, very good. We are kind of the, third or fourth biggest economy in the world. But we're not sure whether this will stay like this.
Okay.
Can I add something, obviously there are kind of things that can be done. We're talking about the kind of infrastructure of migration
Yeah.
from Kenya to Germany, as we already said. A bit more resources. I think the German side could invest more resources in language and also in recognition of skills, maybe even visa capacities and things like this. This could be done. It would help, but this would require a certain political commitment. And I'm not sure whether we're actually having this commitment at the moment. I guess there's a little bit
So from the German
from the
government.
German side. I guess there's a little bit kind of I wouldn't say a vacuum or kind of a hesitation, because we we're already talking about this toxic migration policy field, and the German government at the moment talking about migration a lot, but almost only in a very restrictive way about the wrong type of migration.
Yeah.
We have border controls now again, within the European Union. And those are highly symbolic. And we even do kind of, pushbacks for asylum seekers at our borders and a number of other things. Those are kind of policies. But it's also the political rhetoric that comes, with those policies and really problematizing migration, saying migrants are troublemakers, they're dangerous, we need to stop it. And policymakers, especially from the Conservative Party, also from other parties, obviously, think, there may be some good migrants and bad migrants, there's unwanted migration and wanted migration, and we just, need to stop unwanted or irregular or sometimes called illegal migration and facilitating the good, labor migration. And looking at this, I'm following this for many years. I think it's not how the world is working. Those kind of different migration pathways or channels, they are kind of very connected.
Yeah.
It's not two completely different worlds. It's the same people. People come for different motives. You can run away from a war and still have, and that's the case for most people, having ambitions to be successfully in the labor market. I guess this type of rhetoric is really, irritating many people. And also this sending messages of control and problematizing migration is not helping to portray Germany as a country that is really looking for new migrants to arrive, welcoming them. It sends kind of, if you ask me, the wrong messages also to the German population and employers. If we only focus on this negative side, problematic side of migration, how would people understand that we really need to make migration work? We need to welcome people. We need to treat them very well. There's a big debate even now about retaining, skilled migrants, because many of them come to Germany after 1 or 2 years. They see they're not completely happy. There are all kinds of challenges. They are leaving or they're thinking about leaving. I would really wish to see policymakers taking this long-term strategic perspective, understanding that the demographic composition, the demographic structure for society will be more problematic every minute.
Yeah.
This happens in almost all European countries and beyond. This means we cannot expect migration from other European countries as we saw in the past.
Yeah.
In theory, people know this, that we need, if you want to look for more migration, we need to look into different parts of the world outside of Europe. The problem is that all other European countries, potentially also in the US, China, and so on, they're in the same situation. So there will be an increased competition amongst receiving countries, to recruit, to find people.
Yeah.
And I guess policymakers and also most people in Germany, they haven't understood this, that we need to do, a lot more efforts to be attractive, to make people come and to make people stay. I mean, this is just, speaking from a strategic kind of economic perspective, but obviously I would also love to see from a human point of view that we kind of see the potentials more and not the risks so much.
Okay. There's a topic that usually pops up every now and then in the migration debates, and especially when you're talking about Africa or other developing countries, the issue of brain drain versus brain gain. And a lot of people always say, like, if, let's say, Kenya is signing migration agreements with 20 different countries, it's like you'll be exporting maybe some of the best brains that the country has, but who are not able to find jobs locally. And so you have the huge amount of brain drain that is happening. There are those who counter the argument and say that we have a very huge youth bulge on the African continent, even in Kenya here. You have about 1 million young people joining the labor market every year. And so even the question of brain drain does not even arise. On the flip side, I'm thinking of a place like Germany, and you have, let's say, members of the AfD, the Alternative for Germany, the far-right party. And some of them, I think there was some time I was scrolling on X, some of them were even using the argument of brain drain now to their advantage. They're like, yeah, if we go and take 250,000 Kenyans from Kenya and bring them to Germany, we'll be taking the best nurses and the best doctors, etc. What's your entire take on the brain drain narrative when it's always, and how it's always used, let's say, in migration debates?
I mean, the far right and even some very conservative parties that are close to the far right, they would use any argument they can find. And obviously, I don't, believe in that they're convinced by this for a second. That they really care of migrants and countries of origins. They don't care. Even sometimes you hear those arguments also about, we don't want to we don't want people to suffer. For instance, risking their lives in the Mediterranean Sea crossing. Obviously, that's an important thing.
Yeah.
That's why we need to implement extremely brutal policies to keep people from even trying it.
Yeah.
And here I'm also not buying it that they really care about the people. There could be other policies, right?
Yeah.
But coming back to the brain drain, brain gain, and so on conversation, it's true. I mean, in the conversations I had here, most people would say exactly what you were saying. The numbers, talking about the numbers. The need for Kenyans or for the Kenyan society to kind of send people abroad is so big that this argument doesn't really apply that much, right? I mean, this is it seems to be almost a consensus. You can still then say, okay, it's not only about numbers, also about, quality, and if you said it's the most talented people that would leave, you could make this case. I don't know if there are any studies that really, confirm this. It's obviously me as a researcher.
Yeah.
I would like to make the case that
based on evidence.
We need research. I mean, this Kenyan migration agreement, there are all kinds of things in there, right?
Yeah.
But I'm feeling we need really evidence on what is doing. How people are navigating, this agreement and coming to Germany, and really need to monitor it very closely, I would say.
Yeah.
And this should be done by really independent researchers. I understand that the governments have a strong interest always in controlling the numbers and evidence, but they should trust us also as researchers. I mean, and because we know best and how to do research on those issues, on those complex issues. I mean. And then we are happy to share the results. I think policymakers shouldn't try to control the research from the beginning. It's just trust us and let us do our work, and then we can talk.
Okay.
That's what I would like to see. I mean, you could still make the case. Maybe brain drain, brain gain. Kenyan society has made a lot of investments into those people.
Yeah.
Even if maybe further training is needed and so on. But I mean, there is all kinds of education and so they basically, if economically, if you look at it economically, investment has been made and this money is lost.
Yeah.
On a short run. But then of course you can also say, okay, there are remittances. And those remittances are, I mean, they're part of the debate. Everybody talks about it. Kenyan government talks about it. It's true. It's an important lifeline for the Kenyan society.
Yeah,
Investments being made.
and in many African countries, you find that the remittances alone, they're like the biggest foreign exchange earner. And so for countries, let's say, struggling with debt, dollar shortages, and so many other things, like the remittances are really a huge lifeline.
Absolutely, and then and there are also projects. I talked to some institutions saying we need to make sure that those remittances are not only used for consumption, but ideally for kind of investments, right?
For investment, exactly.
There's some very good projects.
Yeah.
I guess even one from the German Development Agency where they try to, if people send money and then they give something. They support them if it's invested into something.
Yeah.
This kind of project is great, if you ask me.
In fact, I think even the Kenyan government, when the new administration came in 2-3 years ago, they had in their manifesto, and I think the State Department for Diaspora has been also trying to implement it with a lot of pushback, a diaspora fund of sorts. So that for every, 10 Kenya shillings being sent from the diaspora, one should be diverted to that fund, so that this could also be used for, let's say, like investments, a pool of investment money or something of the sort.
Yeah,
And of course, we have the example of Ethiopia, the huge dam that was launched recently, the GIAD, Grand Renaissance Dam. A huge portion of the dam was actually funded by diaspora remittances.
Interesting, yeah.
Exactly. So it's a new model, and I see so many debates even in Kenya with the new Diaspora Affairs State Department and other countries where people are talking about even the banks, the commercial banks. They have nowadays so many diaspora, let's say, sector departments, and they are saying, like, to the diaspora, we are trying to create funds or channels where you guys can actually maybe invest more.
Yeah.
Something beyond just the usual, you are sending money to your family and relatives and they are consuming the money, or you are building a home up country.
And this is, actually, if you think about it for a second, this is a very interesting point. Because, traditionally, I mean, there was this idea there's a nation state, there's a population, and the population is within the territory of this nation state. I mean, this was never the case. And, African countries have experienced also what it means, kind of how nation states are being set up. And,
quite true.
Where the boundaries actually of communities are in reality. And
Berlin conference, you're from Berlin.
So, with globalization, but not only, I mean, it's an old story. I mean, boundaries and borders have been, reshaped, redrawn very often, very violently, and people had to move, or, boundaries moved across them.
Yeah.
And okay, now we have, we are in the 21st century, like there are new technologies and this kind of who's in the country and who's outside of the country, what are the connection, is changed by this. I mean, you have diasporas, that they live in different countries, but of course they are present part of the Kenyan societies. They're regularly coming back, and they should and they're having to some extent a seat at the table also of politics. I mean, there are also different debates on how diaspora voting should be organized. Kenya also has this new diaspora engagement strategy, and they also, I mean, part of this migration debate is also, I mean, maybe Kenyans working for German companies, remotely from Kenya, because the new technologies make it possible, right? So it's ideally, then we could conceive this as a transnational space where people sometimes move physically, and then sometimes maybe there are other ways of being connected, and people. And this is what I understood also from the Kenyan side, and from the State Department of Diaspora Affairs. They say publicly they would like to people to come back. I mean, it's not the idea is not to get rid of people, right? It's go for some time, learn new things, send money back, but you're always welcome in a way.
True.
That's how I understood it. And then the question is, how do you organize this kind of circular migration or mobility? How is it? I don't have the perfect answer to this, but maybe there's more thinking is needed so that it works for the people, right? I mean, you cannot just that was the tradition that what has been done in the so-called guest worker agreements in Germany and in the 60s and 70s, and there was this idea, those people we don't want them to become part of our society. Maybe they stay 2 years. There's a rotational principle. They have to return. New people that come.
The Windrush generation in the UK.
And this is turned out to be not a working kind of policy.
Yeah.
Because, already employers, I mean, they once people are there and they know how everything works, they don't want to replace those people like every 2 years. Economically speaking, doesn't make sense anymore. And then also, the question is, what do the people want? Maybe someone to return, someone to stay longer.
Yeah.
So there should be some flexibility there. But also, I mean, I understand, if the Kenyan government wants to incite those people to come back, they should think about good policies to give some. First of all, obviously, people will return of course, they can return if their migration project fails completely.
Yeah.
And then this is also a problem because they can be stigmatized returning, and it can be a very bad thing. We should all working on preventing this, reducing this. But I mean, people could also return if they achieve their goals.
Yeah.
Earned enough money, or they've seen enough of something else.
Yeah.
Because for many people, it's not only about an income; it's also because they are, they want to see different things in the world,
different things, how different countries work.
Coming back with new ideas. And then the question is, how is this kind of reintegration return organized? I mean, and obviously people would, I guess, also return. Okay, they can return for family reasons, for all kinds of reasons, right?
Yeah.
But also if they have the feeling that they can, they have a good future in the country.
True.
Stability, economic opportunities, right?
Yeah. There's an interesting journal article I read, I think it was 4 or 5 months ago. Maybe I wanted your take on it. The article, I think it's written by a German researcher, but they were doing the research, I think, with either French or British researchers. So it's looking at migration, but from, let's say, a post-colonial perspective, or you couldn't even call it post-colonial, because actually the argument is what is usually called as the irregular migration, illegal migration, whatever you can call it. Some of the worst we are seeing in countries like Libya. So many sub-Saharan Africans, they go there, they are kept in a pen like cattle, very bad images. So this article made the argument that irregular migration is an act of decolonization. That, of course, because some of the ills on the African continent, some people usually draw them back to the colonial period, and a lot of the resources which were extracted, free or cheap labor that was extracted. And so once we had independence, some people call it flag independence, Marxists, you have a new elite that comes in, the politicians, they are also exploiting everybody. And you have this huge not permanent, but huge underclass and let's say lower class people, very poor, they have nothing. And when some people subconsciously connect that to the colonial period, then making that trip to, let's say, a place like Europe is actually an act of decolonization. You guys messed our continent, and your continent is, according to them, far much richer, better, cleaner, all these things, right? So me coming to Berlin or me coming to Paris or London is my own little act of decolonization, trying to, let's say, benefit from the benefits of colonization that were taken from Africa to Europe. I mean, it's a very interesting article. It's a little bit unorthodox, the way the argument was put. But I don't know, maybe would you have any views about such kind of an argument?
I mean, I'm not sure
because sometimes people in the West, let's say in Western Europe, they always argue, why do these people always want to come to let's say our countries?
I'm not sure about what the best terminology is for this, but I can absolutely follow the argument. And I think obviously migration, the social inequalities in the world are huge.
Yeah.
Also within countries, but between countries, and if policymakers in Western states and then also populations, if they think, why are those people coming, and maybe now we we should share our resources with them.
Yeah.
We are afraid. I think they should really acknowledge, as you said, I mean, the colonial history, and even if not the colonial history, but colonial history makes very clear that the world is such an unfair place, right? And obviously people have this kind of thinking of, hey, this is our nation state, we build it up, there's sovereignty, governments can decide who's coming in and who's not coming in.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can very well make the cases, that with which right can kind of rich Western societies actually exclude people from poorer societies who live in very dramatic situations, right? Because obviously you can also talk about what's the role of African governments.
African governments
it's
and
a
leaders.
More complicated.
It's a very complicated
situation. But I mean, to make this, for me, it's very clear. The world is unfair. There are lots of people, and I'm part of this very privileged kind of small percentage of the world.
Yeah.
Even if I'm also having, as a researcher, very unsecure working conditions. People might not know, but researchers in even places like Germany, they're not. We also have our kind of risks and vulnerabilities. But I don't want to compare this with obviously people from very difficult circumstances. So I understand there are very good reasons actually for those people to claim their rights, and they're part of the global resources being extracted and produced. And having this in mind, for me, it's very clear. Okay, it starts with the narrative and the thinking, but this also means that our migration policies, I understand the state, for many reasons, needs to have some kind of control.
Yeah.
But this control can never be perfect, never be 100%. If we would aim for 100% of control, we end up in a dictatorship.
Definitely.
We should not aim for it. We should have, be more pragmatic and, without giving, obviously, up control completely. But nowadays, everything is about control, right? That's a problem. But for me, it means our policies need to be pragmatic and generous in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to be informed by exactly this acknowledgement of the world is an unfair place, and we should work really towards a more fairer distribution of life chances. Then you can argue what's the role of migration is. There can be other instruments, but I don't know how you see it, Pius. But my feeling is that we a little bit lost this conversation about how to really reduce inequality in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, in my view, definitely, like there's so much inequality. You come to a place like Kenya, you probably move around in certain areas of Nairobi. You're already seeing it, right?
And very very closely kind of connected those spheres of extreme wealth and extreme poverty.
Exactly. And you also always find that you have an interesting example of two different migration flows. You have the, let's say, kids coming from wealthy backgrounds, the small elite, and their parents are able to pay for them school fees to go to the UK, to Germany, to Switzerland, North America, Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah.
But then you also have the middle cadre, or even on the lower cadre, people who are really struggling, and you hear that parents have to even pay, let's say, sell their cow, they have to sell their piece of land up country just for their sibling to actually go abroad.
Yeah.
And so you have those different flows, so that you have the inequality that you're having here in Kenya, in Ghana, in South Africa, is actually also mirrored when it comes to the migration flows.
And you have lots of people who would never have the resources, only in very, very, very exceptional circumstances, to move.
Yeah.
And, even within the country, but then internationally, right?
Exactly.
They're completely excluded from this.
They're completely excluded. They have zero chance to ever experience it. And sometimes when they have the only opportunity, it's unfortunately from very, again, exploitative and scrupulous players.
And this is, for me, also a very clear policy recommendations come with this, both for reasons of fairness, but also, I mean, to have more people that could be, I mean, if you think about economic potential, because currently, looking for, from a German perspective, one of the most important obstacles is money. I mean, okay, you need money to learn the language, you need money to prepare everything, but also, I mean, even if you want to study,
Yeah.
you need to have, I don't know, 14,000 euros or something like this in a blocked bank account.
Yep.
Many people don't have the money. I mean, some people will then borrow it, find it here and there, and then they're in a very vulnerable situation. If things get, turn out badly, they really under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And others are just completely excluded from this, and it's not fair. And also, maybe people are qualified, have potential, they're ready to work hard, whatever, but they would never get the chance. And here, I think German, maybe kind of some foundations.
Yeah.
I would like to see, because companies in the States are maybe, they are not so often not so the first people coming up with new innovations. Maybe, okay, I don't want to generalize this.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some great people. I'm sure there's some great people in all of those institutions, but maybe some institutions, some foundations could have set up some scholarships.
Yeah.
Really supporting migration of, kind of people who don't have the resources to migrate
True.
into the German education and labor system. I would really love to see this. I mean, I know there are some things, but it should be a lot more.
Yeah. And with what you said, basically, like, we've lost part of the conversation, especially on the inequality side of things.
Yeah.
I'm even thinking of, let's say, even the way the labor migration diplomacy is being framed from the Kenyan side,
Yeah.
and also even from the German side. You find that even the inequality part even gets swept under the carpet more and more, because now migration to, let's say, Germany, to the Gulf countries, is considered as a way to bridge this inequality. So nobody talks about the inequality. It's like, yeah, we have this great chance to go and make a lot of money, and people completely forget more and more the reason why there is so much inequality, let's say, in the developing countries, but also, to be honest, also in the global north. So I'm even thinking, yeah, I mean, the entire framing of migration diplomacy, labor mobility, it even makes the topic of inequality become forgotten more and more.
Yeah,
because this one is almost viewed as a perfect solution, a one-size-fits-all for all the problems that inequality may be engendering in a place like Africa.
Yeah, certainly, right? I mean, I'm also I understand policymakers and companies, and then on all sides, I mean, they have to think about, the economic potential, and then, yeah, they forget about the bigger picture, maybe, and I really think we should have a more kind of human, to have a bigger picture, talking about those mobilities and see really human beings and what are their situations. Not only is there potential, does it make sense economically, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have a look only at the economical angle, it will not work. I mean, even if you're just interested in the business case,
True.
You forget about that people are migrants, are human beings, that the countries of origin and also destination. I mean, you need to address this part more, stronger. But then you are right. I mean, there could be other debates and policies. Should be, within Germany. I'd like to have a stronger debate on reducing inequality.
Yeah.
We are not having it. The current government that is there is, I mean, the debates of that some people, get richer and richer and richer. As we also have this in Germany, and all kind of ideas of really, reversing this kind of definitely different tax system is not even seriously discussed, right? And I guess it's similar in Kenya.
Yeah.
So then it's more a conversation about social class and inequality than about migration policy and kind of international relations, right?
Yeah. Quite true.
This, I mean, how can this be changed, right? It's a broader debate about.
It's a very broader debate, definitely. And so Marcus in the original German way.
Both is totally fine with me.
Both is totally fine, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you've experienced that maybe a lot when you've been in Nairobi. A lot of people referring to you as Marcus.
But I've been also to other countries, in France or whatever, where I used to live, and then they call me Marcus. So I mean,
Marcus,
wherever you are, it's a little bit different. So
a little bit different, yeah.
I can live with that.
Yeah. So there's one other aspect I wanted to explore with you, especially regarding I don't know how we can link migration and the general debates about automation and artificial intelligence. And this, once again,
See,
it's always an argument that is used by, let's say, far right countries who are very anti-immigrant or xenophobic.
yeah,
And I remember a couple of years ago, leaders, I think far right leaders in Germany, they're arguing, yeah, we can actually make use of automation in the future. We don't need this huge number of migrants, and especially if they're migrants from developing countries, from Africa
yeah,
and other regions. And currently, we know there is always an issue, let's say, between adoption of new technology, especially by businesses. And it's not only a thing that is happening in Germany. You go to Japan, there's a very slow adoption of certain kind of technologies, even though it's basically one of the highest technological countries on earth, right?
yeah,
And so this argument that, hey, we don't need these migrants, but currently we are seeing people are talking about the AI bust, which is going to happen. The boom is going to bust. And the reality that for many Western countries, especially with the inverted pyramid population scenarios, you are you are always going to require some or need a certain amount of migrants to actually ensure that your economies are running and you maintain that top position, let's say, in the industrialized world. So one person actually put it one way that you have to pick your poison, especially for people who are always anti-immigrant. I don't know what would be your take on, let's say, because you are once again from Berlin, from Germany. Is the debate shifting now that people are saying maybe there might be an AI bust? Are the people who put a lot of premium on automation and artificial intelligence as a replacement for future immigrants or future migrants?
yeah.
Is that debate also shifting, or?
I'm not hearing a lot of this debate at the moment. It's true that I saw in policy papers by the far right saying AI will, we will fix it. We don't need more migrants, more people.
Yeah.
That's what they said, and still is part of their vision of things. I mean, I'm not obviously economist or even expert of AI. It's true. It's a huge, I mean, transformation of societies.
Yeah.
It has potential. It has lots of risks. I'm seeing, and it's really a deep. You might maybe call it, I don't know if industrial is the right word, but a revolution of the economic system and societies.
Yeah.
All kinds of ethical questions, economical questions, and I don't know. I mean, nobody probably knows how deeply it will affect and transform
Yeah.
our world and societies. But it has the question is also how it's being regulated. And I mean, in the past, from what I hear from economists, is every kind of big revolution has at the end created more jobs and more wealth than before. But the transformation can be very difficult, and
Yeah.
lots of people losing their jobs, and this is what we are seeing. I mean, at the moment, I guess lots of people are actually losing their jobs, or are afraid of losing them.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, we have this recession in Germany. It's probably not only caused by this AI kind of situation, but many other factors. Geopolitical crisis. I mean, COVID, the pandemic, energy crisis related to the war in Russia, and many other things. Right? It's a complex crisis we are seeing at the moment.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing it, and personally also, I have this feeling. Okay, this is something. It's an important transformation. And people are, there are uncertainties, people are afraid, and if people are afraid, and if there's lots of uncertainties, people are probably less open to change and to receiving kind of newcomers. That's probably, I would say, as a challenge, right?
Okay.
Probably nobody knows how our societies will look like in 10-20 years.
In 10, 20 years, yeah.
Even when it comes to the economic structure, it creates also, obviously, we all seeing it. I mean, it creates also great opportunities, right?
Yeah, quite true.
And it
Exactly.
could liberate a lot of resources. In administrations everywhere, people not doing kind of silly, kind of repetitive tasks, and focusing on more interesting, more important stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it will just be great. And also, I mean, even if AI can replace a lot of kind of work at the end, and we always had this with the kind of post-Fordist kind of industrial, Henry Ford, I mean, the owner of Ford saying, okay, if I'm not paying my workers correctly, who will buy my cars?
Yeah.
And this is the same thing actually applies now. I mean, okay, if it is possible to reduce the workforce dramatically, who will buy all those products?
All those
No one.
products,
And I guess
exactly.
maybe I'm hoping that there will be kind of, a self-regulatory kind of system. But yeah, the moment now is, I mean, there's also climate change, lots of uncertainties.
Yeah.
And this obviously is always a good time for, populist political parties and leaders.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also sure that certain professions can never be replaced by AI.
Yeah.
I know that you were speaking about Japan, even they had this approach. I don't know how serious this is, that old people, there will be robots kind of taking care of those
Yeah.
people, and maybe also we need robots. But people, young people, old people need other people, and they want to be with other people, not only in the social sector.
Yeah.
So
Or some people in, let's say, very technical trades. Like, I think I once had somebody say, yeah, I'm studying to be a plumber. Like, there's just no way. I don't know how possible it could be. I don't know, maybe 100 years from now. But they'll be like, yeah, there are some jobs like plumbing where even if there's a robot or a machine that can help, you'll still always need the human hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there will be, even if there's transformations and uncertainties, I cannot be sure, right? I'm not,
Yeah,
I mean, there's,
nobody can be
there's
sure,
this
of course.
future studies. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it's important. We also do this kind of trying to anticipate the future. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can really study the future, but there's all kinds of methodologies but there are lots of uncertainties. But
Forecasting of sorts.
my feeling is we will nevertheless still need a lot of people, young people,
Yeah.
and they have to be, many of them have to come from other countries because we simply don't have enough kids. Maybe some people 10 years ago when I have children when they were smaller,
Yeah.
even 5 years ago, it was difficult to find a childcare place in Berlin. The demand was
Yeah.
too high. Now you can
Right
see
through the roof.
you can seeing in many kindergartens actually they're almost desperately looking for children.
Yeah.
And for me this is an alarm sign that, I mean, we are really aging. And this is not good. I mean, okay, maybe some people think, okay, if there are less people, then maybe the housing prices will go down and we have more space and less trouble.
Yeah.
But the problem is really the ratio between old and young.
And young.
Right? Even if kind of efficiencies and more technologies, I mean, okay, but I mean the ratio was something like, I don't know, I mean, it depends on the different historical phases, but it was like 4 people working, supporting 1 non-active persons.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a couple of years ago, a couple of decades ago. Now we are, it's almost 2 on 1, and we are approaching almost like 1 people working, having to support 1 people non-working.
Yeah.
And the things, I mean, that are being discussed, like, okay, we can all work longer, like almost like if you're 70 or I don't know how old, and then also women should work more. I mean, families should work more. But is this really a good idea? If like I'm already feeling right now, everybody's super stressed. You cannot increase kind of the working hours, like it doesn't make sense.
And meanwhile, like in the Nordics, for instance, they're already talking about having a 4-day week.
Even in Germany, we had those debates.
Yeah, even in Germany.
Yeah, we have these debates again and again. But yeah, it's not. Then there are also other people, like more from the conservative side. Yeah, all of this, a little bit like the Gen Z debates maybe in Kenya.
Yeah.
Those people are not working hard enough, and we all have to work more and more and more. Even our chancellor saying that we are not working enough. Then of course there's studies that saying it's not based on actually numbers. What he's saying. But my feeling is, okay, we can always improve the efficiency of our work.
Yeah.
All of us probably, and maybe AI will help us. But I don't think it's neither desirable, not really possible to increase working hours seen over the year or over a lifespan, if you want, a lot.
And even talking about the ratios, I remember one thing, because when we arrived in Germany, I think that was 2016 in April. And then in the course of my language course for that 6-month period, I remember reading a statistic from one of the newspapers, and I was taken aback, to be honest, because they mentioned that at the time, of course, Germany with a population of 82 million people maybe, there were 2 million people who were above the age of 80. And the number of retirees collectively together was, I think, about 17 million people. And so, remembering, because I used to look at the Bundesländer, the states, and the population in each and every state. And so, of course, the most populous is North Rhine-Westphalia, NRW, and they had, I think, a population of about 17.4 million at the time. So in my mind, like when I used to talk to, let's say, some of you, my classmates, and we are arguing, and you're like, can you imagine if you take all retirees from Germany and you brought them to North Rhine-Westphalia, and like they will be the entire population of that place. So, you know, the number of people who had retired and also the number of people above the age of 80, 2 million people. I mean, it's something that took me aback. I was like, oh, wow. Like the ratio you already see is very precarious, if you can put it that way.
Yeah, and if you think about this was 10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago.
Now the number, I don't know the number of how many people above 80, but it's definitely a lot more.
A lot more, yeah.
And there's only one direction. And you can also say, okay, people should work longer. We already increased, the age from 65 to 60, 67. And now people, even in the government, say, maybe it should be 70 or more, right?
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, I understand, okay, if people live, have a longer life and they're healthy and so on, they can also be active longer. But again, there's some limits to this kind of approach, right?
Exactly. You can't push the envelope too much. It reaches a point where you're like, okay, it's no longer elastic. Like you pull it anymore, it will basically just pop or burst.
Yeah. And also have the problem that societies are aging, that more, even now in elections, topics that concern people that are old or very old, dominating the political agenda.
Yeah, quite true.
And this obviously prevents policymakers, unless they're very brave and not so many of them are, to really develop long-term strategic policies, right?
Quite true. Yeah.
This will only, I don't know, it's also a question of political culture, right? And that's really a challenge for democracies. This short-term kind of electoral cycles. There's every 4 years the national election, but almost every month there's some kind of an election in some kind of a region in Germany.
Yeah.
And then again, toxic debates about migration, and then at the end, I'm talking to policymakers, and they tell you, we know it's wrong.
Yeah.
They even say it publicly. We had a good, manifesto, and now the whole election was about, some stupid kind of migration policy restrictions.
Yeah.
And we failed again, and then I hope policymakers at some point in Germany, many other, European Western countries, will somehow understand that this creates really serious problems for our societies, and they need to find other ways in kind of addressing this far right, political project.
Yeah. Okay.
I can just, on a very personal note, say that personally I would be happy to see this, migration, let's say, story from Kenya to Germany becoming a success story. It makes sense. It potentially could really be beneficial for all sides involved. Chances are there with the migration agreement, and also there's a lot of things happening. People from Germany coming, being interested, companies, Kenyans being interested, governments talking to each other. But for it really to be a success, we talked about it earlier. Some actors need to step up their commitment, and I'm obviously there's all those people trying to profit from it. This should be regulated more. If I know it's difficult, right? So that it's not that people are being betrayed or the price of migration increases. This is one part of the story, but then also commitment should be there from the German government to put a bit more resources, and also German kind of companies, being more brave, even if it's kind of a little bit of a new kind of uncharted territory. As somebody said, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of Kenyans. They're great people, and just give them a chance, and you'll see that it will work out.
Yeah. Even for me, on a personal note, I was like, because I stayed in Germany for 4 years, and at the end, I didn't get a proper job in my area of study. and I also tried the PhD route. I couldn't get a doctoral father or mother, whatever.
Should have called me
Doctor
back then.
Fata, doctor, exactly. So yeah, we didn't know each other at the time.
Yeah.
So I had to come back to Kenya, and it was during the COVID pandemic. So I was like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense anymore if things are not working out. And COVID hits, and there was so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
But now, after the agreement has come, I think, in fact, what I've noticed personally is that there's a lot of, it's like a spotlight has been put on Kenya, and
Yeah.
especially for German companies, the private sector, etc. So they are realizing, okay, there's a new, let's say, country where you can actually get more people to come to Germany to work. And I think it's a good thing, because if that would have been the case, let's say between 2016 and 2020, let's say a lot of the Kenyans who are in Germany, or had been going to Germany, it will have been an opportunity for maybe many of them to stay back in Germany. Because I also know there are many Kenyans who, like, even in the, because I was a DAD scholar, and I know so many people from the DAD programs who went to Germany, and the transition period between them finishing their masters and when they are officially supposed to leave the country. A lot of them will stay for like only 2 months, 3 months, less than 6 months, and they're like, Germany is not working out, I'm going back home. So you have a very huge quota, and not only for Africans or Kenyans, because I remember there was a very huge contingent of Latin Americans
With the scholarship.
with the scholarship, once again, the DAD program, who actually will also go back home, because those 6 months or 1 year trying to look for a job, a PhD, etc., becomes so difficult, and somebody just decides, yeah, Germany is not working, let me go back home. So in the context of Kenya, I think maybe, of course, once again, the Kenyan diaspora is very small in Germany,
But growing.
but growing, and especially after the labor agreement. So maybe that is also like an opportunity to kind of increase these numbers. It's only that I know Germany is, I mean, every country is different and complex in its own way. And I think Germany, of course, with the language, but also the culture, the directness of the German culture, if you compare that with the indirect culture of, let's say, Kenyans,
Must be challenging, yeah.
yeah, that it's changing a little bit with the Gen Zs. But maybe with the millennials and some not baby boomers, but Gen X, etc., you still have it, because it's a lot. We took a lot of it from the British colonial system, the indirectness, beating about the bush, and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it will just be interesting to see how things develop, let's say over the
Absolutely.
next, until 2030, over the next 5 years, because we are actually maybe even four, from 2030. It will be interesting to see how things develop, if there'll be a huge surge of people, let's say, once you mentioned, let's say, as you mentioned, if the recession in Germany now subsides and you have some economic uptake, whether maybe there'll be more people going to Germany from Kenya, even though I know, yeah, the language has always been an issue. But as you've probably met many Kenyans, you've probably heard people say Kenyans are very innovative, and we try hard
hardworking.
and hardworking. And of course, one thing that helps not only Kenyans but many African countries is that we have three languages already, so that by the time somebody's in high school, they are speaking at least three. So when you mention German, they're like, yeah, I mean, what language is this that we can't conquer?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, just maybe to underline this point, I mean, Kenyan diaspora institutions, as far as I understood it, they is also, diaspora organizations, civil society from other countries are doing very important jobs,
Yeah,
and they should also receive more funding. I'm really, they are the first, if there's some problems or some challenges, they're close to the people. And I think it's in the interest of of the German state. I mean, really to support those people. Obviously, they're the general kind of help institutions or migration integration kind of services. Even generally speaking, I mean, social services that are there. But I guess especially for newcomers, those circles are important, and they should get more support, I guess.
yeah,
And then also this, what you said yourself, I mean, then you get a scholarship, you study in Germany, and then you have some time to find a job. But maybe for some people it will work out. It's also fine if people return really, because they want to return or to move
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
But I think we really should I mean, as a country, Germany should get better in understanding, okay, we kind of often, symbolically speaking, reach out like one hand,
Yeah,
but maybe we should reach out two hands
with
and like
both
making
hands,
an
yeah.
additional effort, like saying, hey, we're happy that you are here. You learned the language, you know how everything is working, you
Yeah.
have some good skills. Okay, and maybe you don't find a job immediately, but we'll find a way, from the administration kind of side. I mean,
Yeah.
flexibility in the permits, not being too
Bureaucracy.
restrictive, but also
Yeah.
then job placement, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
We have some welcome centers and things like this, and there's some good things happening in some municipalities and states. But again, they're experiencing, I mean, cuts in funding, and
Yeah.
we should really invest more into those projects and infrastructure, because Germany will always, for every scenario I can imagine in the future, be a country that needs and is shaped by migration. So every kind of euro
Yeah.
we are not investing is a big problem. So we should really invest more to make it work.
And especially when you talk about, let's say, the role of the diaspora organizations, and we're also seeing a lot of information coming out about, let's say, a program like the Chancenkarte.
Absolutely, that's a topic.
Exactly,
yeah.
which is a very hot topic, and
On
there are a
which we
lot
did
of
research also.
exactly there are a lot of people going to Germany from Kenya, from other countries, through the Chancenkarte, and they're discovering that it's not as easy as they thought. Some maybe don't have the language. They arrive in Germany and like it's basically a very difficult situation for them. And so when you tie that to, let's say, saying there is some funding cuts on things like welcome centers and stuff like that, then you have this very, let's say, bad situation.
Yeah.
Where these two things are actually merging together. Funding cuts, but you also have people coming in through a system like the Chancenkarte, the opportunity card, and they're actually finding that grass is really not greener on the other side.
Yeah, this Chancenkarte thing is we could do a whole episode on this. Maybe we should with some people that are, also working in this field. But yeah, it has some positive sides, but again, it's a policy where you could see that some people would be in very vulnerable situations. And now, one thing is, I mean, we're advising the government, we'll do more research, and we hope that, we already raised those points in some of our policy briefs.
Yeah.
But before there will be a formal evaluation of this policy, I mean, this will be in 26, 27. That's one thing. We'll push for some adjustments.
Yeah.
Another thing is, those people are there. It's not extremely high numbers. We invited them. Now they're a little bit stranded.
Yeah.
I would really love to see some kind of pragmatic, short-term, whatever support program, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That this would be beneficial for all sides, because people are already, they made an effort, they
made an effort,
they're there,
they learned
and we need people,
exactly.
and they're qualified people. If they would kind of return home, completely disappointed,
it beats the entire sense of even having a bilateral labor agreement, right?
It really should prevent it. But I'm not sure, if because people, even in the statistics, that's one of our findings, because the people with the Chancenkarte get a visa into their passport.
Yeah.
So officially they wouldn't have any contact with German state authorities.
Yeah.
And even as far as I understood, the German authorities, they don't even know whether those people are actually in the country or not.
Oh. Okay.
Because it's just,
they don't have to do like Anmeldung, Bürgeramt.
Normally they should do it.
Normally they should, but of course, yeah.
But then maybe even if they do it, I mean, I don't know if they show up in the statistics and how. Or maybe some, I don't know, if you come just for a short period, then you find a sublet or you're hosted by someone. So, in some cases, maybe the German policy makers or administration don't even know if people actually came or left the country, and what the support needs of those people are, right?
Yeah, quite true.
But yeah, I think there should emerge really quickly. It's urgent, this topic. Something should be done.
Okay. Parting shot, Dr. Marcus. Like your last almost 2 weeks in Kenya, the entire migration debates in Europe, in Germany, on the African continent, if we narrow it down to Kenya once again, what will be your parting shot?
Wow. I mean, I really, like to see kind of the potentials, the chances, the benefits of a goodly designed migration policy between, Kenya and Germany, or African countries, other
Yeah.
countries, and everybody needs to understand that the potential in itself is not enough. The resources need to be put there. It's a process. It's a long-term kind of political project.
Yeah.
And if it's managed properly, it will be beneficial for all sides. But there are risks that the commitment is not there, and that kind of actors trying to exploit the situation that are very strong. They have resources, and just standing still and waiting is not a good strategy.
It's not a good strategy. All right, and so that's where we are ending our discussion this evening, from Nairobi to Berlin. I think it has been a very interesting discussion, especially if any of you has been following the migration diplomacy kind of debates, not only in Europe, in Western Europe, in a country like Germany, but also here in Kenya, which is striving to sign bilateral labor agreements with about 20 different countries. So I hope you've enjoyed the conversation over the last 1.5 hours. Thumbs up if you like this particular episode, subscribe if you loved it, and remember to click on the notification button for future interesting episodes on the Nubianometry Podcast, a very intellectual, high IQ, well-curated conversations. Thank you all for having followed the conversation. I'll see you in the next episode, hopefully soon. Bye-bye.